You're walking into a hunter-gatherer camp for the first time. Not a movie set, not a Hollywood cave with matching furs and a campfire in the exact center. This is the real thing, pieced together from stone tools, ash layers, and bone scatter preserved in the ground for tens of thousands of years. And it's far more organized than almost anyone pictures it. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what a real Stone Age camp looked like, where people slept, where they worked, where they threw their trash, and why archaeologists increasingly describe these sites less like a random cluster of huts and more like a small, carefully organized neighborhood. It starts before a single branch is placed. A group arriving in unfamiliar territory doesn't just stop wherever they get tired. They're choosing a location, and the choice follows a clear logic. Close to water, but not directly on the bank, where the ground floods or predators drink at night. Upwind of where the group's own waste will end up, so the smell doesn't blow back into camp. Elevated just enough for a sightline across the surrounding land, enough warning if something or someone is approaching. It's the same instinct you'd use picking a campsite today. Except for them, getting it wrong could be fatal. At the center of it all, fire. Not one fire for the whole group, necessarily. Excavations of sites like the Neanderthal camp at Navalmaíllo Rock Shelter in Spain show multiple hearths within a single camp, each tied to its own cluster of activity. Fire wasn't just warmth. It was light after dark, a place to cook, a place to gather, and, based on the density of tools and bone fragments found around these hearths, clearly the anchor point the rest of the camp was built around. Every family unit likely had its own spaced out but still within reach of each other. A ring of small fires, not one big one, spread across the camp. Close your eyes for a second and picture what this actually sounded like, smelled like. Wood smoke, thick in the air, mixed with the smell of hide being scraped and meat cooking slowly over open flame. Somewhere close, the low murmur of conversation, tools clicking against stone, a child laughing. Further out, past the edge of the firelight, the sounds of the surrounding land, insects, wind through grass, and every so often something further off that made the whole group go quiet and listen. No white noise, no filtered silence. Every sound meant something, and everyone in camp knew how to read it. Get close to any one of those hearths, and the ground itself tells a story. Archaeologists have a name for what they find. A drop zone. Small flakes of worked stone, tiny scraps, things used sitting right at the fire and simply dropped where they fell. A few steps further out, a toss zone. Larger discarded pieces thrown clear of the space where people actually sat and worked. This isn't guesswork or reconstruction. Ethnoarchaeologists studying groups like the Ukungsan mapped this exact pattern happening in real time, then found the same ring-shaped scatter preserved in Stone Age sites tens of thousands of years older. The same human habit repeating itself across an almost unimaginable span of time. Just behind each hearth, shelter. Not identical huts in a tidy row built to fit the ground. A lean-to of branches and hide angled against the prevailing wind. The mouth of a rock shelter, if the landscape happened to provide one, close enough to the fire to catch its heat through the night, but positioned so smoke didn't choke the space where people slept. Every shelter, slightly different, all solving the exact same problem in whatever way the immediate terrain allowed. Move a little further from the hearth, and the ground changes again. In one direction, a dense concentration of worked stone, a tool-making zone where flint was struck and shaped probably by whoever in the group was best at it. In another, scraped and cut animal hide fragments. A processing zone, likely worked by a different group entirely. Spatial analysis of sites like Huencú Nazar in Argentina shows this wasn't random scattering. Specific tasks happened in specific spots, over and over, camp after camp, generation after generation. A layout repeated so consistently it can only be deliberate. Sleeping areas sat close to the hearths but slightly apart from the main flow of daytime activity, warm enough through the night, but out of the way while people worked during the day. And then, at the outer edge of it all, a boundary. Not a wall, just the line where firelight faded into open darkness. The edge between everything the group had built and organized and everything beyond it that hadn't been. A camp like this wasn't huge. Most bands numbered somewhere between 20 and 50 people. Small enough that everyone knew everyone, large enough to hunt, gather, and defend the space together. Children moved through all of it, close enough to the hearths to be watched, but with room near the shelters to play, mimicking the same tool-making and hide-working motions they'd need for the rest of their lives. Camp wasn't just a place to survive the night. It was where an entire way of life got passed down, one generation sitting close enough to the last to watch and learn. And this camp wouldn't stay a camp for long. Excavated sites show layer after layer of reuse. The same location occupied, abandoned, and returned to again months or years later, sometimes by the very same group. As food sources shifted with the seasons, migrating herds moved, streams dried up or flooded, the group packed what could be carried and moved on, often returning to the same trusted locations again and again. The land itself became a kind of memory, a map of known, tested, reliable places, carried not on paper, but in the group's collective knowledge of where camp always worked. As the light fades, the whole camp visibly contracts inward. People move closer to their fires. Tools get put away in the same spots they'll be picked up again tomorrow. Every choice made earlier, the water source, the sightline, the ring of hearths, the shelter's angled just right, all of it exists for this one moment. Because once real darkness falls, there's no going back outside that firelight until morning. And this same layout shows up almost everywhere humans settled, just adapted to whatever the land demanded. On the open savanna, camps stayed light and fast to pack, ready to move at short notice. In Ice Age Europe, hearths sat deeper inside rock shelters, or even semi-permanent structures built from mammoth bone and hide, built to survive brutal months-long winters. In dense tropical forest, camps clustered tighter, canopy cover replacing some of the open sightlines groups relied on elsewhere. Different climate, different materials, different exact shape, but the same underlying logic every time. Fire at the center, work zones around it, shelter close by, and a boundary between the organized world of camp and everything beyond it. So the picture isn't scattered huts and chaos. It's a camp with zones, with logic, with a layout that gets repeated site after site across tens of thousands of years, and completely different environments, different groups, different continents, different eras, and the same underlying pattern each time. That's not luck. That's knowledge, tested against real consequences, passed down so consistently it eventually became instinct. So next time someone pictures a caveman camp, picture this instead. A small, organized, deliberately laid out space built by people who understood their environment better than almost anyone alive today. Which part surprised you most? Tell me below.